What if the man you saved was sent to destroy your life? That single question slammed into me like a freight train the moment I locked eyes with Gabriel under the flickering streetlights of Lower Manhattan. Rain hammered the pavement that October night in New York, turning every alley into a slick trap. I was Owen Hayes, 28, a freelance journalist who had spent the last year chasing leads on Victor Kane, the untouchable crime boss whose empire stretched from dockside smuggling to crooked city contracts. My own life was already a minefield. My father, a retired Wall Street exec, had cut me off the day I came out as gay at 22. "No son of mine lives that way," he'd said, and the silence since then had carved a hollow space in my chest that no amount of late-night deadlines could fill. I was cutting through the financial district after interviewing a reluctant source when I heard the shouts. Three men in dark coats had cornered someone against a graffiti-covered wall. The victim fought hard, but one thug raised a gun. I recognized the leader immediately, Tommy the Knife Ruiz, Kane's favorite enforcer. My instincts screamed run, but my feet moved before my brain caught up. I yelled, "NYPD. Freeze," even though I had no badge, just pepper spray and a phone already dialing 911. I sprayed the closest guy full in the face, grabbed the stranger's arm, and yanked him into a sprint. Bullets pinged off a dumpster behind us. We ducked through a service door into an all-night diner, hearts pounding so loud I could hear them over the rain. He collapsed into the booth opposite me, soaked and shaking. Blonde hair plastered to his forehead, blue eyes wide with something between terror and gratitude. "You just saved my life," he whispered, voice rough like he'd been screaming for hours. "Name's Gabriel. Gabriel Voss. 26, he said, a freelance photographer who'd gotten mixed up with the wrong loan sharks. His story spilled out in fragments: gambling debts, threats, a last-minute escape that ended in that alley. I bought him coffee and a dry hoodie from the diner's lost and found bin. When the cops finally arrived, he gave a vague statement and they left. But I couldn't walk away. Something in the way he looked at me, like I was the first safe thing he'd seen in years, hooked me. I offered him my couch in my tiny Brooklyn walk-up. "Just until you sort things out," I said, ignoring the voice in my head that warned me against strangers. That first night we talked until 4 a.m. He asked about my family, and I told him the truth. The Thanksgiving dinners that no longer happened, the brother who still texted in secret, the mother who cried on the phone but never visited. Gabriel listened without pity. "My parents kicked me out at 17 when they found magazines under my bed," he admitted quietly. "Told me I was going to hell. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone in the room. By morning, I'd already started wondering how someone so gentle could end up on Kane's radar. I had no idea the answer would nearly cost me everything." The next few days blurred into a strange domestic rhythm. Gabriel helped me cook pasta, laughed at my terrible attempts at espresso, and fixed the leaky faucet I'd ignored for months. We walked the Brooklyn Heights promenade at sunset, shoulders brushing, sharing stories of first kisses and the fear that came with them. He understood the weight of hiding who you were while the world demanded you shrink. My editor called about the Kane piece, reminding me the deadline was tight. I mentioned it casually to Gabriel. His expression flickered for half a second, then smoothed. "Sounds dangerous," he said. "Be careful." I laughed it off. Little did I know that careful was the last thing either of us would be. Weeks turned into a fragile routine that felt dangerously close to something real. Gabriel found odd jobs shooting headshots for actors in the village, and I buried myself in research, piecing together how Kane's operation funneled money through shell companies tied to my father's old firm. The irony stung. Every new lead made me question if my family's silence was protection or complicity. Gabriel never pushed, but he was there, steady, making me laugh when the weight got too heavy. One evening after I'd spent 12 hours cross-referencing bank records, he surprised me with takeout from my favorite Thai place and a bottle of cheap red wine. We sat on the fire escape, city lights sprawling below us like scattered stars. "You ever think about what you'd do if your dad called tomorrow?" he asked softly. I shrugged. "Probably hang up. Then cry in the shower where no one sees." He reached over, squeezed my hand once, and didn't let go right away. The touch lingered longer than friendly. I felt the pull, that electric awareness every gay man learns to recognize and sometimes fear. Later, when the wine was gone, We ended up shoulder to shoulder on the couch watching an old movie. His head dropped against my shoulder during a quiet scene, and neither of us moved. I told myself it was exhaustion, comfort, nothing more. But my heart knew better. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday. I came home early and found Gabriel on the phone in the hallway, voice low and urgent. "It's under control," he was saying. "Give me more time." He hung up the second he saw me, smiled like nothing happened. "My sister," he explained. "She worries." I wanted to believe him. That night we cooked together, bumping elbows in the tiny kitchen, and the laughter felt genuine. He asked about my article again, casual, and I showed him a redacted draft. His eyes scanned the pages a beat too long. "You're really going after Kane?" Something in his tone made my stomach tighten, but I brushed it off. He'd been nothing but supportive. My best friend, Marcus, a fellow journalist and the only person who knew every detail of my family fallout, met us for drinks at a quiet bar in Williamsburg. He took one look at Gabriel and pulled me aside. "He's hot, I'll give you that. But something feels off. Watch yourself." I told Marcus he was paranoid. Back home, Gabriel and I stayed up talking about the pressure of being out in a city that still had invisible lines. He described the foster homes after his parents kicked him out, the nights he'd cried himself to sleep wondering if being gay meant he'd never be loved. I shared how my mother still sent birthday cards, but never asked about my life. The honesty cracked something open between us. When he leaned in and kissed me, soft and tentative, I kissed him back. It wasn't fireworks or drama, just two men who finally felt seen. No promises, just the quiet relief of not being alone. The next morning I woke to an empty bed and a note. "Early shoot. Back tonight." I smiled, but when I checked my encrypted files, one folder had been accessed at 3 a.m. The password was still intact, yet the access log showed activity. I told myself it was a glitch. Gabriel came home with flowers and takeout, kissed me like he'd missed me all day, and the doubt dissolved. We spent the weekend exploring the city, holding hands on the subway where no one cared, laughing at street performers in Central Park. For the first time since coming out, I felt like maybe love didn't have to be a battlefield. But the question from that rainy night kept whispering at the edges of my mind. Christmas loomed like a storm cloud. My mother called, voice shaky, asking if I'd come to Connecticut for the holiday. "Your father misses you," she said. "He just doesn't know how to say it." I almost said yes, then remembered the last dinner where he'd refused to look at me. Gabriel noticed my mood and suggested we make our own tradition. We decorated my apartment with cheap lights from the dollar store, cooked a ridiculous amount of food, and invited Marcus and his boyfriend. The four of us laughed until midnight, exchanging silly gifts. Gabriel gave me a framed photo he'd taken of the two of us on the promenade, my arm around his shoulders, both of us smiling like the world couldn't touch us. I gave him a new camera lens. That night, curled together on the couch, he whispered, "I've never had this before. Thank you for saving me that night." I held him tighter, ignoring the tiny voice that still wondered why Kane's men had targeted a simple photographer. January brought the first real confrontation. My editor wanted the Kane expose published in 2 weeks. I worked late every night, cross-checking witnesses who swore Kane had ordered hits on whistleblowers. Gabriel was supportive, bringing coffee at midnight, rubbing my shoulders when the tension knotted them. But one night I caught him staring at my laptop screen when he thought I was asleep. The next morning I asked casually if he'd looked at my files. He laughed it off. "Just curious how brilliant my boyfriend is." Boyfriend. The word landed warm and terrifying at once. We hadn't labeled it, but it felt right. Still, the access log showed another anomaly. I changed the password and said nothing. My brother Ethan called unexpectedly. He was in the city for business and wanted to meet. We grabbed lunch at a diner near my place. He looked older, tired. "Dad's been asking about you," he said. Quietly. "He read that piece you wrote on city contracts last month. Said it was good. The compliment should have felt like victory, but it tasted bitter." Ethan glanced at Gabriel when I introduced them later. "He seems solid," my brother admitted. "Just be careful who you trust with the family stuff." Gabriel smiled politely, but I saw the flicker in his eyes again. That evening he was quieter than usual. We talked about coming out to my family one day, about how love should be worth the risk. He kissed me like he was memorizing the moment. I fell asleep wondering why his phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers at odd hours. The pressure built slowly. Marcus warned me again over text, ran a background check on Gabriel Voss. Clean, but the photography gigs don't add up. Too many gaps. I deleted the message. Gabriel and I took a weekend trip upstate to a cabin, just the two of us. Snow fell outside while we sat by the fire, sharing childhood dreams and adult fears. He told me about the foster father who had beaten him for being different. I told him about the night my father found my journal and called me a disappointment. We made love for the first time that weekend, gentle and honest, two men learning each other without rush or shame. Afterward, he held me and said, "I'd do anything to keep this." I believed him. But back in the city, my editor called with urgent news. A source claimed Kane had planted someone close to me. The warning came too late. The betrayal didn't arrive with drama or gunfire. It arrived in a quiet email. My encrypted drive had been copied. The only person with physical access was Gabriel. I confronted him that night after he returned from a supposed shoot. "Why were you in my files?" He froze, then the mask slipped. "Owen, it's not what you think." His voice cracked. He admitted everything in a rush. Victor Kane had found him 6 months earlier, drowning in debt from a bad gambling habit he'd hidden. Kane offered to wipe the slate clean if Gabriel got close to me, copied my research, and fed it back before the expose dropped. "I was supposed to get you to trust me, then disappear," he whispered, tears streaking his face. But I fell in love. The real kind. I stopped sending updates 2 weeks ago. Kane knows something's wrong. Rage and heartbreak collided inside me. I'd risked my career, my safety, my heart for a man sent to ruin me. "You used the fact that I'm gay against me," I said, voice shaking. "You let me believe I'd finally found someone who understood." He didn't deny it. He begged me to listen, said he'd turn down Kane's final order to sabotage my hard drive. "I chose you," he insisted. "Even if it gets me killed." I told him to leave. He packed in silence, pausing at the door. I never lied about how I feel. Every kiss, every night, that was real. The door closed behind him, and the apartment felt emptier than before my father stopped speaking to me. I spent the next week in a fog. Marcus stayed on my couch, reminding me I wasn't alone. My editor pushed the story forward anyway, but the leaks had already weakened key evidence. Kane's lawyers were circling. I replayed every moment with Gabriel, searching for the lies. The worst part was realizing how much I still missed him. The city felt colder without his laugh. My mother called again, sensing something wrong. I told her I'd met someone and lost him. She was quiet for a long time. "Maybe it's time your father heard the truth from both of us," she said. The offer surprised me, but I wasn't ready. Gabriel left voicemails I didn't answer. Then one night my phone rang with an unknown number. "He's in trouble," a woman's voice said. "Kane has him. Warehouse on the docks. Tonight." I hung up, heart hammering. Every instinct screamed it was a trap. But the thought of Gabriel facing Kane alone after choosing me twisted something deep. I grabbed my coat and called Marcus for backup. The drive through Brooklyn felt endless. I kept hearing his voice. "I chose you." What if saving him again meant destroying myself? The warehouse smelled of rust and seawater. Floodlights cut through the dark as I slipped past 2 guards using the press pass I still carried. Marcus waited outside with the police on speed dial. Inside, Gabriel was tied to a chair, face bruised, Kane standing over him with a calm smile that chilled me more than any shout. "Mr. Hayes," Kane greeted me like we were at a board meeting. "Your boyfriend here has been very disappointing. Refused to finish the job. Said he loved you." Touching. Gabriel's eyes met mine, desperate. "Owen, run. Please." I stepped forward instead. "Let him go. You have my research already. The story's dead." Kane laughed softly. "The story was never the point. It was the distraction while we moved product through your father's old contracts. But now I need insurance." He nodded at a thug who raised a gun toward Gabriel. Time slowed. I lunged, knocking the weapon aside, and chaos erupted. Shouts, footsteps, Marcus bursting in with actual NYPD officers who had been waiting on my signal. Shots echoed. I dragged Gabriel behind crates, shielding him with my body the same way I had that first night. "Why did you come?" he gasped, blood on his lip. "After everything I did to you?" I didn't have an answer then, just the certainty that losing him would break what little of me my family hadn't already shattered. The raid ended in minutes. Kane was cuffed, evidence seized from hidden crates that tied directly to my father's old firm. Gabriel and I sat on the dock afterward, paramedics checking us over. He looked at me, eyes raw. I never sent the final files. I burned them the night I realized I couldn't lose you. I believed him. The betrayal had cut deep, but the choice he'd made afterward cut deeper still. We didn't speak much on the ride home. I let him stay on the couch, not ready for more. Sleep came in fragments, haunted by the question that started everything. The next morning my father called. The news had reached Connecticut. "Son," he said, voice thick. I saw the headlines. "You took down Kane. Your mother told me about the man who helped you." He didn't say the word gay, but he didn't hang up either. I was wrong about a lot of things. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a door cracking open. Gabriel listened from the kitchen, silent. When I hung up, he said quietly, "You don't owe me anything. But if you'll let me, I want to earn back your trust. The real way this time." Spring arrived in New York with the kind of light that makes even old wounds look healable. Gabriel and I rebuilt slowly, one careful conversation at a time. He moved into a place 2 blocks away, giving me space while staying close. We met for coffee, then dinners, then long walks where we talked about everything except the betrayal at first. He told me the full truth. Kane had blackmailed him with photos of his little sister, the only family he had left. The debt was real, but the love that grew between us had been real too. "I was supposed to destroy you," he admitted one evening on the promenade. "Instead, you saved me twice. I'm still learning how to live with that." I introduced him to my mother over a cautious Sunday brunch in Connecticut. My father was there, stiff but present. He shook Gabriel's hand and said, "You brought my son home in more ways than one." It wasn't perfect. There were awkward silences and old prejudices that still lingered in the air, but no one walked out. Ethan texted me later, "Proud of you, bro." For the first time, the hollow space in my chest felt a little smaller. The exposé finally ran, stronger than before because the raid had given us new evidence. Kane's empire crumbled in headlines and court dates. Marcus and I celebrated with beers, and he clapped Gabriel on the back. "Took you long enough to get it right," he told us both. Gabriel smiled, the easy one I'd fallen for that first night. We still carried scars, but we carried them together. 1 year later, we stood on the same Brooklyn Heights promenade where our story had quietly begun. Gabriel turned to me, eyes steady. "I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm grateful every day that you gave me one." I took his hand. We both saved each other. That's what matters. The city lights reflected in the water, bright and unbroken. The question that once haunted me had been answered not with destruction, but with the hardest kind of love, the kind that chooses truth over fear, growth over guilt, and tomorrow over yesterday. In this story of 2 men navigating love, betrayal, and the weight of who they were told to be, the deepest truth is simple. Trust isn't given once and forever. It is rebuilt daily through honest choices. The lesson I carry forward is that even when someone enters your life with secrets meant to break you, a single courageous decision to choose connection over revenge can rewrite everything. Don't let past pain close the door on future healing. Face the shadows, hold on to the light you find in another person, and remember that being gay in this world already demands courage. Loving despite the risks demands even more. But that courage is exactly what makes the story worth living.